All right, welcome. We are live, episode 4 with BenThere. Before we get into my guest today, first of all, I just want to thank you all for watching and all the responses. This has been kind of cool. I've done 3 of these now, and the responses I'm getting online when I actually have a guest, and plus the responses I get afterwards, have been fantastic. Obviously, I'm not a techie guy. I'm still trying to iron out the details to all this stuff, work out the kinks, specifically with the Wi-Fi. That was the biggest issue last week. I am happy to report that I and my wife have ordered a stronger Wi-Fi connection. That's supposed to be showing up later this week, so my apologies to Sean and the rest of you on last week's show for the couple of the issues we had, technical glitches. That was on my end. My apologies to that. As you can see, I kind of switched the background scenery. I'm actually in my wife's office, which is closer to our modem. So I'm hoping today we won't have any issues. We're off to a good start already. So yeah, hopefully nothing bad today. We'll see what happens. But I do appreciate you all hanging with us and kind of going from there. Secondly, and this one actually cracked me up. Apparently I'm not, I guess I didn't realize my microphone, this little thing here, is a lot stronger than I anticipated. As many of you have acknowledged, apparently with the drink I had in this mug, aluminum and ice don't go well together, despite the fact this was an awesome teaching gift I got back in the day. Yeah, so we'll leave that alone today, and we'll kind of ease into sips that I may take. So my apologies for all of you. But yes, I learned a hard lesson, learned it the hard way. But yeah, thank you for those of you that told me that. So the show is a work in progress, but welcome. I still continue to welcome your insight. It's been really fun to do. I didn't even think 2 or 3 of you would even watch this when I started it. Tim's episode, the first episode went, I think, 1,200. Over 1,200 views. The next episode was pushing 400. The next episode, which was Sean's last week, is pushing 800. So you guys are watching, and that's fantastic. That was never the plan. This was just a way for me to brag about people I know and friends. So that said, just a refresher on the concept to this whole entire show is simply a break from the new norm. Life is tough right now. People are in their homes. People are quarantined. The world is kind of a different place than it was a couple weeks ago. But this is a break from the norm. I'm trying to keep this lighthearted. There will be times maybe we'll go a little deep. I hope you guys can appreciate that. But those of you that are watching, I do appreciate you joining us live. This will be shown again on my blog, which is benthere.org, once this is over. Couple things. It's just a matter of enjoying people. I enjoy people. I enjoy their stories. Majority of these shows will be TCK's, Third Culture Kids. The majority so far have been people I grew up with, and I'm kind of spoiled that way. This is my show, so I get to kind of have on people that I know and people that I get to brag about. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be TCK's. It's always going to be people that I have a lot of inspiration for, that inspire me. But that's kind of the concept of the show. So if you're watching, thank you. We're going to have a ton of guests on. I'm trying to do this every Sunday night, possibly Saturday, depending on the time frames that we're working with. A lot of my upcoming guests are overseas, and so I have to kind of work out the time factors. But either way, thank you for joining us. I also wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this last week, a lot of you chimed in asking me what the H stands for in my hat. I have a black one. I have a white one. I'll probably promote a sweatshirt or 2 here and there. But this is kind of a weird time, obviously, with coronavirus affecting a lot of students these days. If you know me, you also know that I'm a head baseball coach here in Utah at a high school, at Highland High School, and no big shock. Once school's kind of left for the year, which has happened here in Utah, so our spring season, the baseball season, also got canceled. So I'm wearing this to support the seniors specifically, but all of the kids that are out there that lost their spring season. So that's what this is. That's what the black hat is. Plus, I'm just a hat guy. I think we've kind of got to that. So, having said that, let me kind of pull up a few things. Today, I am super excited because my guest today fits the description of everything I just talked about. This is a TCK predominant show. However, it's also just a show about great people and people with interesting lives, and that's kind of why I wanted this next guest on the show. So, without further ado, I know her as Camille Funk. She's another person I've known over 30 years, which is crazy to think. But she's technically Camille Funk Eckert. And I just wanted to say hello. Camille, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. I see you're sipping, which is good.
Yeah.
You and I both, right? So
it's going down a little too fast.
Yeah, I still have a Cubs mug, but I'm not going to break the ice on this one. So, but anyway, thank you for joining us. The way this usually starts, let me get to your bio real quick because my computer, of course, froze. My second computer. I am using two computers today. Don't worry, those of you that know my tech skills, I'm not on Wi-Fi with both of them. But Camille, who I have known, I'm going to say. I moved to Taipei in 1986, so it's been a while. You must have been in 5th grade then, because you're a year behind me.
Yep.
Right?
5th grade, yeah.
Yes. So, but having said that, let's see if this works. One more time. Stand by. Of course, right as I was about to read your bio, it clicked off. So. Don't worry, it's not dead air yet, folks. Don't worry. At least we still have a connection. All right, Camille Funk is the author of the paranormal historical romance thriller The Return series, which has been read over 2 million times online. She was born in Singapore. She grew up in Taiwan, which is actually where I met her. We're both graduates of Taipei American School. Without any access to TV, her love of creating stories began. She attended Simmons College in Boston, Massachusetts, receiving a BA in education and English before traveling overseas and working as a teacher in Myanmar, which, by the way, we're going to get into this later. I had no idea you were a teacher.
No, really? Oh,
no clue.
Yeah.
No clue.
Before we actually...
Say that again?
On and off. We move so much, so depending on if I can get a job where we are.
Right. But either way, I had no idea. So we'll get into that later, but I just wanted you to know that was when I was reading your bio, your updated bio, that was kind of news to me because obviously I come from that background too.
Yep.
So the teaching thing and the writing thing we're going to get deep into here in a little bit. But it looks like you were a teacher in Myanmar in Gabon. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Hanoi. She loves collecting stamps in her passport, which most TCKs do. And usually moves to a new country every 2 to 3 years, which I can totally relate to because I get antsy, as most TCKs do when we're in one place for so long. So together with her husband, she raises her 2 children all over the world. She's also currently working on a standalone romance novel, Then and Now, which will be available for purchase in 2020. So this year, when's that coming out?
Probably not.
Okay. We won't tell anybody.
Back a little.
That's all right. We'll keep that secret with us. But I do want to mention, and we're going to get into this later too when we talk about family, but her husband is also someone that we went to high school with. Fantastic dude. He was actually in my grade.
Yep.
So I knew him fairly well. But Tom Eckert, I know you're not at home right now, Tom, but hopefully you get to see this at one point, and just know we're all thinking about you and appreciate what you're doing. So just hang in there, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon. What's that?
I said thank you. He'll appreciate that.
Oh, of course. When he's available, let's put it that way. Let's try to get him on the show too. Maybe I can have both of you on. So that'd be
my God, that'd be funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. But I'm trying to think. Last time I saw it, we talked about this before we went live, but the last time I saw you was 2003.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we talked since then. So maybe an email here and there, or a text here and there. But
yeah, I think some emails and some messages we've exchanged. Yeah, but yeah, not face to face since 2003.
No, this is fantastic. So I'm glad you're ready for this. As we talked about, the way I like to start the show, I kind of gave a brief summary on you. Kind of gave a brief, more so your professional bio. But if you could spend the next couple minutes or however long it's going to take, because the bio you sent me was fantastic, but I want you, in your own words, to kind of talk about what you've been up to the last 20 years. So if you don't mind, it's all you right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So the last 20 years, let's see. So after graduating from TAS, I went to school in Boston at Simmons College. I went back to Taiwan the summer after my freshman year, and summers in Taiwan were great because there's always a mishmash of people. And Tom and I started hanging out that summer, and we started dating. We dated throughout the rest of college. And then he moved to Boston after college. And after he started working in finance, he had always wanted to join the State Department, and I knew that, but he started working in finance. And he was doing really well in it, and he was going to get transferred to Santa Barbara. And then 9/11 happened. And I think, it kind of stirred something up in him and reminded him of his original goals in life. And so he joined the State Department. And then with the State Department, let's see, we were first posted in glamorous New Jersey. That was
not New Jersey. My brother lives there now, so he's
well, my son was born there. I can't knock it too badly, and Aaron's from there. But that being said, it was the only place that I cried about when I found out we were moving. I was not happy about that move. But after that, we had my son in New Jersey, and then our first posting was to Myanmar, to Burma. And we were there for, I think, about 2.5 years. And then we were posted back here, where Tom had to learn French for a couple months, like 6 months. And then we moved to Gabon in Africa, in West Africa. And we lived there for 2 years. And then and I taught at the international school in Gabon. It was a really small school, and it was kind of not really functioning. And I showed up on the first day, and they found out I was a teacher, and they hired me on the spot. So I just kind of got thrown in, and I ended up teaching everything from kindergarten to 9th grade science. I mean,
how big was the school?
The school is really small. I think it was, I want to say maybe a total of 100 kids, K through 9th grade. So it was a lot of mixed classes. So a lot of difficult obstacles for teaching, but it was really challenging. And I came out of it feeling a little stronger. But after Gabon, we got transferred back here to the States, to Virginia. And Tom did a year in Iraq. And then after Iraq, I totally did not mention that I had a daughter in there. So sorry about that.
In between, yeah.
I hope she doesn't see this. And then after his year in Iraq, we went to Hanoi. Hanoi was kind of our payoff for that year. And it was supposed to be a 2-year assignment, and it got extended to 3 years, and then it got extended to 4 years. So we lived in Hanoi for 4 years. And then we moved back here, and I've been here for 3 years now in Virginia.
What part of Virginia? Alexandria, or where are you at?
I live in Herndon. It's really near Dulles Airport, which is really all that matters to me in Virginia, is leaving. Yeah. So I like being near the airport. So yeah. And then, so Tom's in Iraq now again for the year. He left last June, and will be coming back, hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm a little unsure with everything, with the state of the world, but he's supposed to be coming back in early July. And then we head off on our next adventure, which will be going back to Myanmar, to Gabon, in the summer of 2021.
You excited about that?
I am really excited about that. Myanmar was, I really enjoyed living there, so I'm excited to see how it's changed in 12 years, because, it was really hard living there back then. It was under military rule. I was there during the Crimson Uprising, where the Buddhist monks actually protested against the government. I was there during the cyclone, bird flu. So we had some adventures there, and it was
embassy,
and made really good friends there, and we had a lot of fun there. So I'm excited to see the changes that have happened in the 12 years since we've last been there.
Are you going to try to teach?
I think I am. I'm not sure if I might work at the embassy or teach. I've done both, so I'm not sure yet.
Okay, and we'll get into this deeper later, but how do your kids feel about it? Are they looking forward to it, or do they remember? Because did you have both when you were there before?
I had, Georgia was born while we were living in Myanmar. I actually couldn't have her in Myanmar, so I was fortunate enough to get medevaced to Taiwan. So my parents were still in Taiwan, so I lived with them for, I think about 4 or 5 months while I was pregnant, and then got to give birth to Georgia at Adventist Hospital, which was kind of like a dream come true.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have memories. Sadly, I have memories, and Sean McKean can relate to this. I have memories of Adventist Hospital because 7th grade, I was stuck there for asthma issues. So yeah. I have
to say, the old Adventist Hospital, I was a little loose when they mentioned I would be going there, but it ended up being great. I had a wonderful doctor. The experience was a little crazy because my doctor ended up not being there, and everyone only spoke Chinese. So there was a lot of translating with my limited Chinese, what I remember.
Taxi Chinese, that's how I view it. So,
yes, pretty much. Yeah. But so they're both very excited to move again. I'm surprised, but they're still, they're just teenagers now. My son's going into 9th grade next year, and my daughter will be going into 7th grade. So, now might be the time where it starts getting to be an issue. But as of right now, they're still super jazzed about the idea of going, and they're looking forward to it. And both of them picked, we get a list in the State Department of places, and we kind of rank them, and they try to give us one of your top 3. And so both of them had Myanmar high on their list, so they can't be too disappointed.
That's pretty cool. Were they both there before, or did you only have one?
No, they were both there, but neither of them. Georgia was just a newborn, and I think we left with her when she turned 1, and then so my son was only 3 when we left.
Okay, so they don't really remember either way, right?
No, not at all. But they've seen a lot of pictures and hear a lot of stories, so they're really excited to go back. And I think they're mostly really just thrilled to being back in Asia because they're very excited to go back to Hanoi and see their friends and their old school.
Cool. Well, you know better than anybody. Once you're in Asia, it's always easier to go to different places and
travel.
So, yeah, I get that. Very cool. So on your bio, so Singapore, Taiwan, the U.S., Burma, Gabon.
Gabon, yep.
Right?
Yep.
And Vietnam. Did I get them all?
Yep, I think you got them all.
So here is the biggest question for us TCK knuckleheads. That's a pretty good profile. I guess you've actually lived in more places than I have because I've got Hong Kong, Taiwan, the States, Shanghai, China, obviously. Where is home? Where do you consider home? That's kind of a loaded question, I know, but where's home?
I don't think it's going to surprise anyone. They say home is where the heart is. So Taiwan, that's where I grew up. That's where every memory I have with my family was created. It's where I fell in love. That's where I had my heart broken. That's where I fell in love again. Baby there. All my memories are in Taiwan. So yeah, it'll always.
When's the last time you were back?
I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago. When we were in Hanoi, we tried to go at least once or twice a year, and so we'd go. Aaron's dad has an apartment, so we would hit him up as much as we could and take advantage of that.
It's always a perk, right?
Yeah,
it's definitely a perk. So yeah, Tim and I went. I'm trying to think. Tim came out. Tim Wagner.
Yeah.
He came out. I was in Shanghai, living and working in Shanghai at an international school from 2015 to 17, and he and his family came out and saw me in Shanghai, and then we actually ended up in Beijing for a little bit. But it was the coolest thing. I hadn't been back to Taipei in 18 years, I think. And so we made it a point. Yeah, we made it a point to go back and visit. So we actually went to TAS, went back, and there were still people that we knew, and we walked onto the campus, and without hesitation, they still remembered us too. It was really cool. Especially the food crew. Do you remember Sherry? Yeah.
Yes, when I went there,
Sherry, we bumped into Sherry as soon as we got to TAS, and she started crying. She recognized. We hadn't been there. Tim and I graduated in '93, heading back. I mean, I guess my parents were still there a couple of years after. So I guess my last year in Taipei prior to that was probably 95.
Oh, okay.
Christmas in 95. Yeah. So because my parents moved to Singapore after.
Yeah. So so you saw a lot of changes probably in this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't. Taipei 101 wasn't even built the last time I went back there, and so while we didn't go over to Taipei 101, we were able to see it. We actually hung out with Winnie. Do you remember Winnie?
Yes, Winnie.
Yeah, so we got to see Winnie, and we got to see James Sao. Remember him?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Tim will help me out here, but Ting Ting Yang, I think that was her last name. Anyway, we got to see a ton of people that we hadn't seen in years, and it was really cool. So I totally get that, but it's always nice to have perks. And we actually stayed at a hotel that was right into. Whoa, we were just up the hill, if you remember.
The one across from the New Mary's.
More so, you remember where the church was? Kind of about by the bus roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were up there. Yeah, it's a little bit past that roundabout, but yeah, we were right in St. Louis, so it was kind of a cool thing. Actually, Aaron Mahan, Aaron Morris, I should say, because in my head everybody's still the high school last names. But yeah, we were able to stay up there, and it was perfect place to be. And then we actually went back to the club, at the American Club, and you remember? Oh man, now I'm forgetting her name. Catherine. There's still a bunch of people there. The waitress, Catherine.
Yes, of course. Yeah. She's there.
Tim and I walked in, and she totally remembered us too. It was kind of trippy, but I mean, 20 plus years. Those are just the relationships you form. I mean, even though you leave as a kid, you come back and people still remember you. So that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, it's already been a couple of years now since I've been back. So, but yeah, good times. Yeah, and TAS, I mean, physically, I want to say it looks the same to me, but there were some new things out there, like the outside and the track and the softball fields and all that. There's a whole new wing of, I think there's a new gym on the side, and then they're big into robotics right now.
This is the student store.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Office is gone. Like where would the middle school office used to be? Yeah. It was a little confusing going back. It's one of those things, as you want everything to stay the same. I mean, you feel super happy, because if we were at that school right now, we would be loving all these additions. But in your heart, when you graduate, you're like, you just want it to stay the same.
Totally. The funny thing, I don't know why this always made me laugh when we went back. Do you remember the payphone that was outside the high school office?
The what?
The payphone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still there. I don't know why that made me smile. But I remember going back to that and seeing that and thinking okay, it's all good. Because how many phone calls did I make from that phone, right? So, because this is way pre-cell phones, pre-everything. So.
Yep. I can't believe how much we got done pre-cell phones back then.
So glad though, right? Think about the stuff that we probably have to not talk about right now. So no, it's all good. So it's all good. But yeah. Okay, so Taipei still to this day is your home. You consider that home?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. See, I was in Hong Kong prior to Taipei, and definitely Hong Kong. Hong Kong was my first international experience, so I'll always have there's a big place in my heart for Hong Kong.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree with you totally, and I think if you ask most of us, Taipei, the ones that graduated, whatnot, so Taipei is definitely still home. So it's just still crazy to think about, but. That's what this whole show is about, trying to kind of connect us all back and explain to people who may not understand us. This was our upbringing. Not better, not worse. It was what it was, right?
Different.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then a little bit deeper. How did and some of these questions are kind of staples now. They're what I'm going to ask everybody when we start. But how did your upbringing, specifically growing up overseas? Because you never actually lived in the States until you came back to college, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so how did that
overseas more than I lived in the States.
Yeah, which is I get it, but it's crazy. Right?
Yeah.
So how did that upbringing kind of mold you into who you are today? What do you think about that?
I think it's twofold. I think growing up overseas, I think majority of TCK kids will say this, kind of makes you a natural wanderer. Kind of are always.
By the way, not all that wander are lost.
Right? You're always craving the next adventure, So that doesn't really ever die. So, I mean, I think growing up overseas and being exposed not only to living in Taiwan, but being able to vacation in all these different cultures and different countries kind of sparks that inside you. And so that obviously has been a big part of shaping who both Tom and I are, and, makes us compatible in that way. But on the other side of it, being a TCK kid allowed me the opportunity to go to a school like Taipei American School, which definitely 100% shaped me. You and I were talking a little bit before. I mean, we had some of the best teachers available, and it was just a really good school. And I think part of it was because it was such a small community. I feel like it allowed me to find my voice. You didn't really have to fit into a mold at TAS. You didn't have to be the jock, or you didn't have to be, the band geek. I mean, you could do anything and you could do it all. And they really encouraged that. And so I feel like I was able to try out a lot of things in high school and kind of figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. And I feel like I had a lot of teachers who, encouraged me to use my voice. A few of them, actually wanted me to quiet my voice more than often than not. But so I think, living overseas also gave me access to this incredible education that I would have gotten anywhere else.
A little bit spoiled, right? Yeah, a little bit spoiled.
And spoiled, yes, not a little bit.
No, right. But it's funny you say that, because I mean, obviously, we all had our. That's a great point you just brought up, because I haven't thought about that really until you mentioned that. But and likewise you, we had our core group of friends, but it was totally acceptable to think outside the box and to hang with people that maybe didn't fit like your normal situation. Because I remember playing sports, and when I played volleyball, I was a white boy. I was the guy, but I was so accepted. All those guys. I mean, Wilson. I saw Wilson a couple of weeks ago online. We were in a little chat group thing, and just people like that. It allowed you the freedom to not only have your core group of friends, right, but to actually be kind of in every little clique that was outside the norm, and it was great. I loved it. I wouldn't have wanted anything else. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was such. I mean, and I guess it's very similar to people who grew up in small towns and have a smaller community. You don't really have as many options, which turns out to be a really good thing, because you start to find a lot of similarities with people who on the surface should be 100% different from you. I mean, like one of my favorite people in high school, and I don't even think he knows this, was Chi Chung Fang, because Funk and Fang, we literally had to sit next to each other in any kind of alphabetical seating. And I loved sitting next to Chi Chung and talking to him all the time during those like meetings or student government things or what have you, graduation rehearsals. And it was just always one of the highlights. And, we weren't really friends outside, but TAS allowed that. It allowed you to just really get to know everybody.
Do you think that was just TAS because it was such a special place? I'm hoping it's still that way. I mean, this is 30 years ago, but I don't want to date us too. 27? So let's not add extra years on, right? We're getting old. So, which I talked about Sean, or talked to Sean about this, is the fact that it's crazy to think that a lot of us are the same now as our parents were when we were over there.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is insane, right? It's insane. So, but do you think that's just a product of TCKs in general, or do you think that was specified specifically to TAS?
Well, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing when you're talking about TCKs. I mean, we all share a very common like bond, kind of this displacement and not really knowing where home is or not really fitting in. But depending where you live, you have a different TCK experience, right? Like even Tom and I, who both were in Taiwan, we had two.
Only in Taiwan, by the way. I don't mean to interrupt you, but was Tom only in Taiwan?
No, he wasn't. But he didn't start going overseas until he was in high school. And he started with Turkey, and then Taiwan was his second place. So, and even my kids who are moving every two, and probably all the AIT kids, the American Institute in Taiwan kids, the government kids, they had a very different experience from someone like me. And, there were a hunk of us who were there from kind of, I was there since I was 2 until, I graduated. So, my experience, I think, would be different from someone who moved around. So for me, TAS absolutely fostered that experience, but I'm not sure that every country is as lucky to have that kind of school. Actually, I know not every country is as lucky to have that school and those teachers and that community, because I've been in a few and they haven't had it.
Yeah. No, I get that too. Actually, I was fortunate when I went back to Shanghai. I worked there for a couple of years. The school I was at, SCIS, Shanghai Community International School, it really reminded me, and what I loved about it is the community feel. It really, truly reminded me of TAS and the connection we made. I was the director of admissions, so I didn't get to interact with kids, specifically, so to say. I met their families and I worked with them when they first moved in, but sadly, I didn't really get to. Once they were in, then they kind of just went about their way. But it was cool to see from my perspective and the impact TAS always. By the way, TAS, Taipei American School. For those of you that we're got a little slang going here with that TAS alumni, but yeah, it was kind of cool to see it that way. It wasn't just us. I think you and I were fortunate. TAS was such a different place back then. I hope it's still the same. I hope kids that go there still feel that connection. But going overseas and then seeing it again through the eyes of SCIS was kind of a cool experience too. So, I appreciate that. So let's jump into positives and negatives about being a TCK. And not only that, I want you also to answer that question. And I'm going to be quiet because I've also been told that I talk too much, which is good. I need this feedback, so it's good. But I also want you to talk about for advice. Your kids have gone through it, and we're going to dive deep into that in a little bit. But those that are maybe, obviously the world's kind of on pause right now, right?
Yeah.
So that's not happening specifically, but at some point this world will open up again, and families will be transitioning overseas. TCKs will be happening again. But I want you to answer 2 questions. If you could talk about the positives and negatives of overseas upbringing, and then also talk about advice that maybe you'd give some current TCKs, because schools are starting to. I know that Shanghai is about to open it back up, and I know that Taiwan TAS is actually opened back up. But those that are currently there versus those that future TCKs, what type of advice would you give them? So positives and negatives, and then advice for TCKs.
Okay. Let's see. I think the positives, we all know that travel is a positive. And I think that Sean and Tim touched on this as well, but growing up in a global community is just an amazing experience. Why? Lots of things. It changes everything from your taste buds to how you view the things on the news. Like now, whenever I see anything on the news that has to do with Israel, the first person that comes into my head is Ramon. It puts Ramon. And I haven't talked to Ramon besides Facebook comments.
Well, this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, but Ramon's actually next week's guest, so we'll talk about that later too. Yeah, so there you go.
Look at that segue I gave you. But yeah, it puts a human face on these countries all around the world. And not only puts a human face on it, but kind of teaches you in very, very obvious way that everyone's the same and, all have the same needs, the same wants at the end of the day. I struggle now with being in America and the whole cultural appropriation thing. I think it might be a lot hard for a lot of TCKs or people who've spent time living overseas because, although of course, blackface and the whole Susie Wong thing, any thing outright kind of racist portrayal of a culture, of course should be frowned upon and dismissed. But, when you live overseas, people are begging you to experience and try their cultures. You know, I can't even tell you how many food fairs or international days I've attended.
My mom will appreciate the food fair comment with the PTA connection. So yeah, there you go.
Food fair at TCK was like nirvana. It was a great place to be. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, you go to these countries, and I know you go to Vietnam, and people want you to put on a cheong. They want you to eat their food. And so it's kind of hard to transition into America with where people feel very protective of their cultures and almost defensive of them in a little bit. So having a global, community is great. Having friends all over the world is great. You don't have to pay a lot of hotel rooms if you want to travel. So that's another positive. But I think one of my favorite things about living overseas is kind of the excitement that you have, where you really don't know, even if you've lived there for like 10 years or what have you, you never really know what's going to be around the corner. I always felt that living in Taiwan. I mean, because you're not really in tune with the local language or, postings of what's happening, you would just wake up one day and all of a sudden there'd be a movie theater set up in front of your house. And, in Gabon, I would drive down the street and all of a sudden there'd be like guys with rifles, like, telling me I had to go a different way because the only one street in Gabon is shut down. So it's a constant excitement factor of never knowing, whether it be something so little like, in Vietnam, just having funerals come down your street, and not expecting it, or, something so big that you don't expect, like when the saffron revolution happened in Burma and, got to experience that firsthand. I mean, there are certain, you just never know what to expect. So I really enjoy the unpredictability of it.
Which I think most TCKs do, right? So I totally agree with you. That was one thing the crazy thing is, Tim and I talked about this on the first show, but prior to me going to Shanghai, right, I'd never been to China, which is crazy to think because I was so close, right?
Don't feel bad. I didn't go until after high school either. So I think
yeah, right. So luckily, I didn't even go to the Great Wall until Tim and his family came out and we all went up to Beijing. So I had no, I guess it's just what you're getting at, though, is the fact that it's an exploration factor that's intrinsically part of who we are, I would like to think, especially if you spent the majority of your life growing up overseas, which obviously you did. I spent 10 years as a kid, which significant years, 7 when I went to Hong Kong and 17 when I came back to the States. That's a big chunk, and especially the growing years, so to speak. So I wasn't over there as long as you were, but still, it was those growing years, right? So, and then going back as an adult, I mean, I felt, and this kind of transitions into my next question, but I felt more at home once I went back to Shanghai, which was a place that I had never been to. I'd never been to China. But it
reminded you of Taiwan, right?
Totally. Oh, absolutely.
That's how I felt in Hanoi.
Yeah. So, and speaking of which, I did get the luxury. I got to go to Vietnam. It was always on my bucket list.
I remember you emailed me to ask me about places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went with some buddies that were in Shanghai, but we went to Da Nang.
Yep.
We didn't get a chance to go. We went for Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It's just such open, heartwarming, just genuine people. I couldn't get enough of it. It was just, I didn't know what to expect when we got there. I just knew we were going near a beach, and it was obviously with the history of it, with the Vietnam War and the U.S.
China Beach, yeah.
China Beach, totally, right? Our hotel was literally on the beach, and so my uncle was a Vietnam vet, and so it was one of those things that was like, my brother can tell you this, my mom can tell you this. I've always had a fascination with Vietnam, and it was so cool to go there, not only go there, but really appreciate the people. Right?
Yeah.
And how genuine they were. They didn't care. It wasn't a show. It was just, thank you for coming. We welcome you with open arms.
Yep.
That side of our history was 30 plus, 40 plus years ago, but we are so grateful you're here, and it was awesome. I loved it. And we went during Chinese Day. The downside is it rained the whole time.
Yeah, not the best time to go.
Not the best time to go. So yeah, but it was. I strongly recommend if anybody ever gets a chance to go. The downside is I didn't get a chance to go to. I guess where you guys were. Where were you guys living?
Hanoi.
Yeah, Hanoi. So we only stayed in we stayed in Da Nang, but we loved every minute of it. We still, we're typical guys. We're a bunch of idiots, so we still went to the beach and we still jumped in the water even though it was pouring rain. So, but it was fantastic. It was just, that's the cultural side of everything that I'm just so fortunate, as I know you are too, and most of the people that grew up the way we did. I would like to think we're all kind of in that same boat. So,
well, and I think that also, like, one of the other things that I think all of us can appreciate from living overseas when we did was the fact that we were afforded such freedom. Yeah. I mean, I remember in middle school, specifically being very jealous of kids in America. Like whenever a new kid would come and they would be from America, they were like the bomb and they knew everything and we all just deferred to them. And, now that I'm, have two middle schoolers here in America myself, they don't do anything. And I just keep thinking like, well, when I was at your age, I was walking around, the Sherland Night Market in a group of 20. I was playing, ditch at the skate park near the American Club. And, so we were granted such freedom. And I think a lot of that had to do with Taiwan was and still is a very safe country. Yeah. And I mean, I recall, getting in cabs, when I was in 6th grade and just taking a cab. I remember getting in cabs with no money and being like, oh, I'll pay you when I get to the top of the hill. Yeah. I mean, I guess.
Dongyu. That was always what I was remembered. I was trained to say Dongyu because I could run up to my or the house and get some money and come right back down. So,
well, and that's the other edge of that freedom, which was super intoxicating and it was a privilege that we got, right? Whether it be because we were Caucasian or because we were expats or because we were of a certain wealth compare. I mean, there was,
there's no sense in denying that. That is true. I mean,
it's a weird thing to talk about, but we had this privilege that was given to us that was very intoxicating as a kid and a teenager. And I guess that would lead me to my negative. It's a very long drop once you come back and you realize, you can't walk into a amusement park and hand them a Motley Crue tape and say, hey, put this on the park. And it happened, which we did in middle school. Yeah. So there are just certain things that we got away with. And, I think for the most part, kids at TAS were really respectful to locals, and we didn't have any crazy caning kind of stuff, but there was a certain privilege in living there at that time that I don't know if I guess it still exists in a way when you're in an expat community, when you're a foreigner in a community. But yeah, it's a negative and a positive, I think, that comes with it.
Totally. What about advice for kids that are either there right now or possibly in the future moving overseas?
Well, if you're possibly in the future moving overseas, you're probably complaining and you probably hate it. And I think Ben can agree with this. We have both seen probably dozens, hundreds of kids who came into Taiwan while we were there, hating it, loathing it, didn't want to be there, and they were just in tears and wrecks when they actually had to leave, as were we. So as much as you think it's going to suck, it's not. And for anyone who is there now, I mean, I would just suck every fiber out of being at that experience, and I would eat as many jiaozhis as my stomach could handle. And I would, as an old person now saying this, but you're probably not going to listen to me, I would really appreciate the education I'm getting at TAS.
Oh, totally. Totally.
It really will prepare you for college. That's for sure.
Inside and outside the classroom, I think, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I totally agree with that because, I was skeptical. My brother and I were in Hong Kong for 3 years, and we had our roots there, and we thought we'd be there forever. And then when we moved to Taiwan, it was kind of we weren't scared. I don't want to say that, but I think it was an emotionally like, I'm still from Hong Kong. Don't talk to me like. And then, good Lord, I mean, I still believe that Taiwan now is home, right? So
Yeah.
you have to give yourself a chance. I mean, there's walls that go up right away, and totally understandable. We did, you did. Well, you were young. You were a lot younger. You too, is that what you said?
I didn't really have a choice. I was 2, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know any different.
Well, I mean, I guess I was born, but in Singapore, but 2 in Taiwan
right.
for moving, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we just didn't know. I mean, it was just a situation. Once you are able to connect, and you will,
yes,
if you allow yourself to, right?
Not only will you, I mean, you will make. It's weird to say friendships because, you know, as you and I mentioned, like I haven't seen you face to face since like 2003, yeah. But it's like this community that continues to support each other. I mean, they're people that I haven't talked to forever, but whenever I hear they're doing something great, or, you know, you constantly want to support everyone, and it's lifelong friendships. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but I really don't know any other way to describe it.
It doesn't, obviously I'm a little biased, but it doesn't sound cheesy to me at all, because look at who I've had on the show, right? Even you. Yeah. You and I talked about this before we went live. I haven't seen you since 2003.
Yeah.
But I feel like I saw you yesterday. Like, just talking now, right? It's so easy. You're family, right? So, and
that's the great thing. We all just fall back into our rhythms with each other really easily.
Yeah, and I said the same thing to Sean, and obviously I do get the chance to see Tim a little bit more, just because of our connection. But it's just such a natural, easy thing to fall back. Not only that, but it's people that get you. You don't have to explain yourself. There's no, where are you from? Like, you know, there's no question. There's no question mark behind anything. There's people that we don't even talk about anymore. It's Camille Funk, right? It's Sean McKeon. It's Tim Wenger. Those people are family to me. You're family to me. You know, whether we appreciate that, like that, understand that, it doesn't matter. But that's exactly the core. If people allow themselves to drop those balls, this is what you get. You know,
it's awesome. I like what you said about the family thing, because it really is true. Like, I mean, when I look back, I spent more Thanksgivings and Christmases with people like the Mocks and the Mahans than I ever. I mean, I knew them better than I knew my own aunts and uncles. So, I mean, again, you know, when you talked about how growing up overseas shaped you, like, these people all shaped me. All these people who were not family, who kind of became family because you didn't have family there with you. So you were spending holidays with them. You were spending graduations, celebrations, and what have you. But, you know, it's also a little hard because they are kind of ripped from your life. But, you know, thank God for Facebook, right? I mean, I guess you still get to check in with each other. But yeah, you know, I mean, the community that we still have, like, I was just forwarded an email from my dad, who is still friends with a bunch of teachers through my mom, and they were all just talking about Christina Chang and how she name dropped Mr. Corelli in an interview, and they were all just so proud of her. And it's just,
by the way, so let me interrupt you right there with Christina Chang, because she's someone I want on this program. Obviously, she's Jose's sister, right? But we knew her as I mean, she was a couple of years older than us, but she is on the U.S. television show The Good Doctor. Is that right?
Yes, The Good Doctor.
Yeah. So I mean, So little FYI, I'm trying to get her on the show so she can talk about this too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not even Christina Chang, who is like super famous, but you know, I mean, they all still talk about, you know, everybody, and, you know, root for them, and so it's great to see. Did you freeze, Ben? Oh no, okay.
We lost you there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I'm good. I think it's actually you're the time, which is refreshing. Say that last bit about Christine one more time.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just saying, it's not just, you know, she's, you know, someone who's super famous, but it's, you know, it's other people too. I mean, I've heard a bunch of teachers, you know, discuss how Tim Wanger's kids just look just like him, and how they all remember him saying he wanted to be a pilot. They do, right? And, you know, how they all remember how he wanted to be a pilot when he was little, and how great it is that his dream, you know, I mean, they continue to root for you. So it's like this built-in support system that, even if it's not visible in your face constantly, it's there for you. You can fall back on it if you need it.
I've never even thought about that, but you are so right. they root for you. We all root for each other.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
We're all trying to get through this crazy thing called life, and yet it's so refreshing. You, Tim. I mean, we can go on. The list can go on and on, but we're all cheesiness, right? We're all in this together. We get each other. There's no hidden agenda. It's not about anything else other than the fact that this is who we are. This is our story. It's not better. It's not worse, but this is who we are, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can't bullshit someone who's seen you in like braces and an eye patch, when you were in like 12. They know you for who you really are, warts and all.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all, like a funny story, but we all went through puberty together. We all know each other fairly
very
well.
Roughly.
Roughly. So, no, that's awesome. Which segue, let's talk about your... And this is really, I want to know this from you specifically, because I was 7 when I moved overseas. We talked about that. And 17 when I came back. I struggled with the acclimation process. And I've talked about this with Sean. I've talked about this with Tim. Talked about this with Calvin too, the second show I did. In terms of acclimation back to the States, and my mind is blown right now before you even answer this, because I forgot that you were so young. You never actually lived in the States. You went to Simmons College from TAS, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was it acclimating back stateside? Let's start first with your college experience. For someone who is American, you look American, obviously everything, just like me. Like I went to a small school in North Carolina first, transferred to Boise State, finished there. I looked the part, you looked the part, and yet intrinsically, I was a mess. Yeah. How was it for you? I don't want to lead you into that question, but I guess that I'm doing that. So tell me about your acclimation process stateside.
You're not. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I really liked about watching your show is realizing. I mean, my mom, being a teacher, had thrown books at me before about third culture kids, but I kind of just breezed through them. So I never kind of put 2 and 2 together that my beginning of my college experience was not so great. And I just assumed I had a bad beginning college experience. But now that I'm older and I examine it more, a lot of it had to do with, adjusting and trying to fit in. I went to Simmons College, which is an all women's college in the middle of the city, in the middle of Boston. I was lucky because Kim, my sister, had gone there previously and she was still living in the area. She was about like about an 8-block walk from my college. So she was a good refuge for me to kind of run to if I needed it. But I was still her sister, so sometimes she kicked me out. But they put me in the international dorm because international student. And oddly enough, even though I was in the international dorm, I was in a dorm with 2 other girls, and one was from Bolivia and the other was from New Hampshire. I don't know how she got up in there, but
that's pretty diverse.
This was all before the internet, before email even, essentially. And I had a really hard time. My roommate from Bolivia joined her international or the Hispanics union and then like ran off, and I never saw her again. And then my roommate from New Hampshire, who had a boyfriend at the college across the street and all her friends in Boston, cried every day of homesickness. And so I just felt like very confused because there was this girl who was international, and by all means, I was used to every international person just kind of accepting me and wanting to hang out. She wanted nothing to do with me and she left. And then this other girl, I was hoping we could hang out together, but she just went home every weekend and cried. So I had a really, really rough time. My first semester at college, I spent a lot of time with a vending machine in my dorm room. It was rough. I was lucky because I remember that freshman year, there were a few people I had. Leanne Lim was nearby, and I hung out with her 1 or 2 times. and that helped.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and then
I remember the name.
Jamie Rackover, I don't know if you remember him. He was also nearby. So that was helpful. But I mean, they were not near enough to see them on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. So it was a lot of struggling. And I mean, I don't think I really kind of found my feet till second semester. I was in a math class, and the girl next to me was complaining about how she had been given a room and no roommate, and they were going to put someone in with her, and she needed someone. And I just pounced, and it worked out because she was from Miami. So I feel like just her lifestyle, being from Miami, was a little more suited to mine. Funnily enough, she ended up dating a guy who was from Taiwan, and I ended up hanging out with him in Taiwan for a few summers after that.
Right.
But yeah, so it took me a long time to get my footing. I mean, the only way I can describe it that feels really honest to me is in Taiwan, I felt like I was a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
And I was very much not even a minnow. Like, I don't even think I was fish food anymore. And I think one of the best examples of that is I was really into journalism. You and I were in journalism class together. I was really into that. I was ready. I wanted to be a writer, and I, showed up for the first day to join journalism, and it was just so big and overwhelming, and you had to apply, and I just kind of ducked my head and walked out and never showed up, which is 100% not the Camille from Taiwan. Wow. Camille from Taiwan would have been like front line, banging down the door. Yeah. But I was really, I guess I lost my voice. Maybe Taiwan made me find it, and then I lost it there for a while because I felt really behind in everything. I mean, I remember no one could drink a beer, but everyone was smoking weed, and I was like, I just don't understand this place, and it was just all really confusing to me. It took a while, but again, when I moved in with my roommate from Miami, I ended up meeting some good girls, and I don't think they ever really understood my lifestyle or experience, but they were able to look past it, and we were able to find enough in common, and we're still good friends today. But it takes a while, I mean, there's the cold sweats you get standing in front of the T when you have to count out change before you have to go on. I remember I got yelled at because I stared at a homeless person, and he got really mad and started screaming at me. And I was just I just felt like Dorothy, in Oz, what is this place? Which is weird because, I was 12 years old running, across the streets of a big city, dodging through traffic. But all of a sudden I just got really scared. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Scared and insecure.
Yeah. But I always felt insecure, even specifically when I first got back in the 2 years I spent in North Carolina. I totally relate to that. I played baseball, college baseball. Like I said, you and I both, we looked the part. We're supposed to blend right in, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I look back now, I don't think I gave, and it kills me to say this, but I don't think I gave it everything I had because I was too afraid of who I would
100%. I agree with that statement. I feel the exact same way. Right? And I think a lot of that has to do with youth, right? I mean, you get in your own head.
I was 17, and I think I left when I was 19 and ended up in Boise. And Boise was a different experience. It was better because I allowed myself to drop that guard. But when I was in North Carolina, the thing that kills me more than anything is that I didn't allow myself to let people in. I had guards up, I had walls up, and I think that's normal for TCKs. I mean, nobody tells you that when you go up to college. It's like, thanks for graduating. Good luck in the future, and here you go. They don't really. I mean, hopefully it's better now, but they didn't really. I had no idea what I was going to do. Right. Yeah. Luckily, Jason Hoffinger, if you remember him, he and I went to college right away, and so that did help that I had someone that knew what I was going through, and he was going through it himself. But yeah, once I got.
He also had a different experience than you because didn't he come in high school?
Yeah, it was a lot shorter than me. It was.
So he probably, I'm assuming, was easier for him to acclimate again.
Totally, and not better, not worse, but totally agree with that. He was, I think he was only overseas, and I say only, right? But he was overseas for 3 years, where I was 7. He moved overseas when he was in high school, and I was 7, like you. I mean, I wasn't 2, but I was 7. So that's a pretty big age difference, right? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and it kills me. Like, I kick myself all the time thinking, like, I was too afraid, or maybe it was just the sense of people not understanding me, and so I was therefore not giving everything I had, and it kills me to think about that right now. But it is what it is, and you live and learn. So.
No, absolutely, and which is ironic that we have walls up when we went back, considering that kind of feel like we lived in Taiwan with walls down, because we were so used to accepting newcomers. I mean, that was our thing, meeting new people constantly. And yet we're presented with this this place to do that. And I just totally shut down and froze in that.
I get it. I totally get it. What about as an adult then? I mean, the struggles, I mean, you've been all over the world, and you've done it as a kid and back as an adult. The acclimation part, and I'm kind of going through this too, because I had such a good experience in Shanghai. When I came back to the States, it was like, here we go again. Right? I felt, I mean, I have connections to Utah. My family's not from here, but my grandparents lived here when I was little. So my brother and I, this was our constant. Like, my grandparents' house was our constant. This is where
summer vacation place.
Yeah, totally. This was our summer vacation place. I don't have any. My wife's from here. I mean, it's kind of funny. She and I joke all the time. Her parents still live in the same house that she grew up in, right?
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, right. So we were talking about it the other day. We counted it out, and I've lived in 24 houses. Over, how old am I now? 40.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
Figure that one out.
Yeah, but by the time, like, starting from when I was born in Idaho. I'm an Idaho boy. But from the time I was born and where I first lived all through right now, where our home is currently, 24 houses. 24 homes, 24 addresses. It's crazy to think that, right?
I've been writing them down because I forget where I was at what years.
As you should. It's kind of wild to think about that. But so as an adult coming back, I know I've struggled with it too. It was, here we go again. That's kind of how I felt when I came back from Shanghai. But as an adult, and by the way, we've hit the hour mark. Usually these only take an hour, but we're not done.
Sorry.
No. It's I was trying to keep it an hour just so everybody stayed intact. But I want to keep going if that's okay with you, because we haven't even hit some of the things I want to get to. So you guys.
I literally have no plans.
By the way, you haven't even told everybody. You told me, but show everybody your shirt.
Oh! I don't even know what size. There you go. Quarantine chic. I've been rocking my TAS sweatshirt a lot this quarantine, and I would like to do a shout out to the student store. If you can get these online, I think you would make a lot of money for the school. We will all buy these products.
Oh, hell yeah. I would.
Make them in old people sizes too, please.
I'm still a proud TAS boy. I'm a Tiger. Always will be a Tiger. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous that when we were back in IASIS days, and if you grew up the way we did, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But now they live stream all the IASIS sports and IASIS everything. So it's kind of a cool thing to chime in and take a look at. But
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but as an adult, what's been your biggest issue with coming back to the States as an adult this time? Because you've been all over the world, even post Taiwan days.
Yeah.
What's the biggest acclimation you've experienced as an adult?
I think that for me, now because I always come back here knowing that I'm going to leave again, I kind of look at my time in America as Disneyland. That's how I describe it to people. Like, I come here and everything is just so bright and clean and colorful and convenient and easy. And my kids get soft and they watch too much TV and they go to Target and they expect something every time. And so it's almost like this great little vacation that I get from living in whatever kind of hardship country that I've lived in. But it's still really hard. Like, I was talking to my daughter about this show, and, she was telling me how that when she came back, the kids in Hanoi were still doing the dab and everyone here had moved on to Minecraft. And I was like, I had this experience. you know, as a kid. And I mean, it doesn't really go away as an adult. I mean, recently I kind of stepped in it. I tried to make friends with, this was like 2 years ago, with one of my, the mothers in my son's baseball team. You know, things were progressing. We went out, we had our first lunch date, and we're chatting. And, you know, you have this tendency, because it's your truth, to speak it and not really curb what you're, at least I never curb what I'm saying, which is probably one of my worst faults. But,
that way. That's awesome.
I know, one of my worst faults. But so, you know, I mean, sitting there and talking to this woman who I later found out like doesn't really even go out to eat much because she's on a budget with her family. And then, you know, we were talking about spring break, and I was like, well, last year I went to, you know, whatever it was, somewhere in, like, I think it was Fuquoc. And, you know, I mean, there are things that you say that come off really snobby and really kind of offensive. And, you don't really mean to. And when you're talking to other people who live the expat life, it's very normal in conversation to say, oh, my maid folded my underwear the other day. But like when you talk to someone in America like that, you know, it doesn't come across. It doesn't read well. So
it's hard for me to bring up the terms ama and so I get it totally. Like
we have a funny story in Burma. Even though we constantly begged for them not to, it's customary for the household staff, they call you madam and master. And when we left Burma, we were one of those families. Our nanny came with us back to America for a little while because I had a broken knee, and she helped us out during that time. And because I had a broken knee, Tom took her to the Smithsonian with our kids so she could see everything. And he told me that she was in the Smithsonian and she saw the moon rock, and she screams to him, "Master, master, come see this moon rock." And he was just mortified, thinking that like, oh, don't call me master. Please don't call me master. And it's, you know, I mean, it's things that were completely normal in Burma, and then you transplant it to here and it's not normal.
Well, no, I get that, because when I was in Shanghai, I had an ai, which is the same thing as an ama.
Yep, an ama.
Boiled rotten, right? But she would always call me sir. And look, I'm still, no. Like, even with students I've had before, when they call me sir, like, it doesn't sit well. Like, they say sir, I turn around and look for my dad, right? So so I totally understand that. For time's sake, I mean, you and I, obviously, we could talk for hours, right?
I know.
But I want to transition now, because always the concept of this show is the first section is always about TCK and our background and things like that. And this segue is a little bit still TCK. You and I talked about this before we went live. It's probably going to be the hardest part, but I want to talk about family. Okay. I want to start off with your parents, because amazing people. And I know I mean this with not making you and your sister feel uncomfortable, but I can truly say this as someone who knew your mom, knew your dad, know your dad still. Your parents are amazing people, and you know, we'll talk about your mom in a second. But what type of influence did they have on you specifically growing up, and even now as a parent? Do you take little things here and there? What kind of things do you take from them? So you can talk about the influence your parents had on you.
Okay, huge. I think, like everyone. My mom went when she was like, I think 8 months pregnant with Kim, to war-torn Vietnam with her husband. Wow. In 1970, 72. So
the war was still going on, right?
Yeah, the war was still going on, and they tell stories of water skiing while being shot at and sneaking out at curfew in Vietnam to get beers. And so I think that there's stories of like,
How did they meet, your parents?
They met in college at the University of Maryland, but both of them are military brats. So both of them grew up overseas themselves.
See, I get that, because I don't know if you knew this. My dad was the same way. He was a military brat too. So, yeah, totally. My dad's first language was Japanese.
I didn't. My mom lived in Japan too. That's
there you go. So go ahead.
So, I mean, I guess now we're like, what, one, two, third generation TCKs. But yeah, so they're kind of like zest for life and adventure really rubbed off on me. On top of that, were always very much in love. Throughout my whole life, my dad and my mom were never shy about displaying their love in front of us. They were very romantic. And so
I can vouch for that. I saw your parents a lot. So
yeah, so that played a lot into what I was looking for, when I eventually found a partner. But yeah, I mean, they just really rooted me in the idea that I should see the world and I should experience things. And my dad is very much on kind of you only live once, and he's the life of the party, and life is a party and you sleep when you're dead. And I kind of really have taken that from him.
That's awesome. I gotta brag about your parents for a second. Is that okay?
Sure.
Probably stuff you didn't even know. Your mom, obviously, and I mean this with all due respect, you know that I got you, because I lost my dad. My brother and I lost our dad in 2011. Your mom passed last year?
Yeah, it's been a year. Yeah.
It's been a year. That's crazy to think. Those of you that are watching, I don't even have to explain this to you if you went to TAS and grew up overseas, but Camille Funk was a legend, not just in Taiwan, not just at TAS. Camille, I don't even know if you know this. I obviously I worked overseas for a couple of years. There were people in Shanghai who knew about your mom. I would go to conferences and I would talk about my background and explain the years I was there. Number one thing that was said to me, Camille Funk. Mm-hmm. Number one thing, Camille Funk. I've never said this publicly, so I want this to be a good time to say this. I hope it's okay to say, but your mom, aside from my own parents, because we're getting a little deep here, and I started this podcast or this webcast off by saying we're going to try to keep it lighthearted. But I told you this before we went live. I'm going to brag about you and your family for a minute. Your mom, I've known since 6th grade. She was not only the principal, who I talked to Sean about when I first moved to Taipei. Well, we hadn't even moved yet. We went to Taipei as a look-see, and we had to take those entrance exams at TAS. Your mom walked my brother, myself, my mom, my dad around the campus of the old school, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking this is the coolest thing. Like I saw a bunch of people that would end up being lifelong friends, and Sean and I talked about this a couple times last week. But your mom was so calming. She had such that calming influence on me. But that's not what I want to get at. I mean, that's one of the things I want to get at. But just so you know, aside from my own parents, your mom, even as a 6th grader for me, she was my advisor, because I think if you remember the old campus, we all got placed into advisor roles, right? Erin was in my advisory with your mom in 6th grade. Leslie Teague, I remember the day she walked in. Your mom was you're so sweet to her. But your mom was the number one person who told me, and I never forgot this, without hesitation. She said that, you know what, Ben? You can do anything you ever want to do. There's no doubt in my mind. And from somebody who, like, you always listen to your parents, and don't get me wrong, my mom's watching this right now, and she adores your family, and we'll talk about our dads in a second. And I told you, it's okay, you can get emotional, but I just wanted you to know that it wasn't just about me. I know for a fact that lady represented and just cared so deeply about people and kids. And I've never forgotten that. She's the only adult aside from my parents that made me believe I could do anything I wanted to do. People say that all the time. It's kind of thrown out there, but your mom, I just want you sincerely to know that, you and your sister, by the way, to know that your mom was such a big influence on me personally. She's 90% of the reason I went into education.
Oh, that's great.
So I just want you to know that. So I know it's kind of an emotional thing to hear.
That would make her really happy. I mean, I think, yeah, that would make her really happy. I mean, like, my mom started working at TAS, I think in like, God, maybe 79 or 80, maybe 81, as a seventh grade teacher. And, I mean, she lived and breathed that school for a majority of her life. And I mean, oftentimes growing up, I kind of felt like TAS was like the other woman. Like I felt very like she spent a lot of time dealing with stuff from the school. But, when she passed away, I was just beyond touched by the amount of people from, our community and our school who reached out to me about her. And it was so funny because, I had more than one person, mostly boys, tell me, I thought your mom hated me, or, something along those lines. And then the honest to God's truth is, as someone who got to hear her talk about you all at home, like she never hated a single kid who walked through her doors at JS.
I believe that 100%. Totally believe that.
I hated some of the parents, but never the kids. It felt like she hated you. Odds are she thought you weren't rising up to your potential, and it solely is because she thought you had potential. And just like I was mentioning about the other teachers earlier, like, my sister and I used to always tease my mom because, especially at the end when she was battling her breast cancer, she spent a lot of time on Facebook. She wouldn't post anything. She didn't want any pictures taken of her, but Kim and I would tease her because she would stalk all you guys, whether it be through her own friends with you or, friends of friends. And, she was just so proud of everyone, I mean, and, it's just all like everyone, like, she just couldn't say enough kind things about how everyone has turned out. And, she's just proud to have played a little part in it. And, I mean, my family and I were so like just beyond touched by like just the outpouring of love for her that not only the community showed, but like TAS did like a big thing for her. I kind of think, like she passed and then Mr. Cook passed and Mrs. Morris passed. And it was kind of like a 1, 2, 3, like all right in a row. And it was really hard. And, I like the idea that they're like up at like a staff meeting up in heaven, kind of.
Yeah,
just, but, I mean, we were lucky to have such good teachers at school. And I'm just really proud that my mom played a part in it. And I'm really like, it was so embarrassing having your mom be your principal, and especially having your mom be Mrs. Funk, the principal, which is, bring on the teasing. But like looking back, I'm just really proud for how much she put, especially into that middle school. They didn't even want her to be the principal to begin with. They like said she only be vice principal. And she like worked her way into that principal job. And I think she really changed that school around. And I'm just so proud of her.
You don't have to think. She truly influenced so many, not only teachers and educators, but she inspired so many. I mean, how many of us have gone on and ended up in the education world? I can truly tell you this.
I mean, I know
I did that.
Daniel Mock she was really proud of him going into teaching. You have Aaron. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, so I want you and your sister and your dad to know that she was such an inspiring figure, and she always brought out the best in people.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear. Sometimes she didn't bring out the best in me.
Especially when you came home after curfew, right? So
yeah, exactly.
No, but I know I didn't want to get too deep into this, but I truly want you and your family and your sister and your dad. She's a legend. And I can truly say that in the international community overseas, as someone who's been in the international education world. I wasn't there long, but not a day went by where I would talk about my background where people would say Kathy Funk. And I hope you and your sister and your dad truly know the legacy she left. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it definitely became more apparent to me after she passed. I mean, I've got emails from teachers all over the world who basically constantly were calling her her mentor. And, I mean, I guess, it's very odd when you die and you spend a majority of your time overseas. I mean, she wasn't living in the States with like a community surrounding her or like a church that she belonged to. So her death was very like a private family thing. And so having all that support from everyone from back home in Taiwan, or all around the world, but with the Taiwan connection, like really, really meant a lot to our family.
Good. Well, deservingly so. I went through it. I can't even believe it's been 9 years. I mean, my brother can vouch for this too, and my mom as well. But just know, amazing lady. And I hope you truly know how much she meant, not only to myself and people that grew up with her, but outside of TAS too. She was a legend in that international education community. She left a legacy, just so you're aware.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, having said that, I want to talk about your dad too.
Okay.
Because your pops is badass. Let's go ahead and say that right now. So I don't think a lot of people I knew, obviously, and this is something we knew way back in the day. But our dads actually shared an office.
That's right. In Moo.
Yeah, they were both kind of an entrepreneurs or representing a specific company in Beer Street Road, I believe, right?
Yeah, off Beer House Road. Yeah.
Yeah, Beer House Road. So,
right.
Yeah, so I mean, my dad would always come home with stories just about your pops, and likewise, I hope. But your dad I respected the hell out of him. First off, I was intimidated, scared to death of the man. He's the first guy I ever knew that actually shaved his head.
Yeah.
Right? He was a badass in that department. Yeah. But yeah, he was also a Marine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
irrigator.
Yeah. So I mean, Bill Funk is you and I talked about this before, but I know I'm not the only one that's out there. The dude's a badass. So I hope you understand that. So as much as we talked about your mom, I want it to be, to be known to the people watching and the people listening. Totally. Your dad is a badass. And it's funny because I think I'm not alone in saying this, Christmas still doesn't feel the same without a funk Christmas party.
Oh,
I hope. Oh God! So how many? I mean, it was always like we'd wake up as a kid and you get your presents out of the way and you'd have your morning brunch and all that stuff. My brother and I, to this day, we talk about like Christmas to us is going to the Funk's house in the afternoon.
Christmas to us is having you guys all come over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those of you that are watching, I mean, if you weren't fortunate, it was a situation where that just became normal. I think from 7th grade to 12th grade, we spent our afternoons at your house
on Christmas Day,
just enjoying Christmas, right? So we still, I mean, it's a situation that I mean, it wasn't just us. It wasn't the four of our family.
No, she invited a lot of people.
Yeah, that may have been the first time I accidentally took the wrong eggnog. Just so you know.
I took the wrong punch a few times too. Yeah. You weren't alone there.
Right, and so I remember going up to the roof of your house too a couple times.
Yep.
Just to be away from the
adults.
Yeah. The adults. But it was just it's honestly, and I know I can say this, my family talks about it every Christmas to this day. But the Funk's house was Christmas to us. Like it was, you do your thing in the morning, and then it was the Funk's house in the afternoon. No questions asked, and it was awesome. So I hope you understand that people still talk about those days. Look at my brother, right? Yeah, look at my mom and my brother, but we still talk about the Funks, and my brother said #facts. So, but I still I can't, to this day, I'm 44. You're 43?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I still cannot think of a Christmas where it wasn't spent, the afternoon anyway, at the Funk's house. So, just so you know, it's not just me saying that. I know a lot of people on here would say the same thing. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely, your family is big time in my heart, in my family's heart, but I just wanted you to know your parents definitely big influences on who I ended up becoming too. So I just wanted you to know that. And so my dad, prior to him passing, was always big on your dad. Like they had so many deep talks and just being in that situation where they could, openly discuss things. My dad always said the best part of his occupational time in Taiwan was the time he spent sharing an office with your dad. So.
Oh, that's so great to hear. That's so nice.
Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah. So just from the Voegels to the Funks, there you go. I'm bowing to you right now.
So.
Yeah, definitely awesome. Well, let's keep on that family talk then. You're a TCK, obviously.
Yes.
You married a TCK. You're raising TCKs. That's something I haven't had yet on the show. How is it raising? Yeah, and you're about to go back overseas, so that's even better. But how is it raising your own TCKs? How have they adapted to the stateside acclimation? But now that they know they're going back overseas, like how is it being the mother of some TCKs and then also the wife of a TCK? And Tom, again, we haven't talked about Tom enough on this, but Tom's also a TCK. He grew up the way we did, and I just, if you could, I mean, my wife's not, but she got to travel when she was younger, so that allowed things to be a little bit easier. She gets me, she understands why I'm doing this. But in terms of you're the first person I've talked to that not only was a TCK, but married a TCK and actually has TCK. So can you talk about that right now? So.
Yeah, when I went away to college, my dad gave me the very wise advice that if I told someone I was from Taiwan and they didn't know where it was, a boy, I was supposed to walk away from them. And that I
hope you know, I don't know if you heard this last week, but I got told that, you know, when I first moved back to the States, I thought people thought it was either really cool how I grew up. They had no interest whatsoever, which is fine.
Yes.
But then I also got told a lot like, oh, I've been to California. Like, what?
Yes, I've been to Mexico. Yeah. And a lot of people, God, a lot of people thought I was from always. I'm like, no, it's a totally different country. Yeah, so that was kind of his general rule of thumb for me, and you know, like that stuck with me. And freshman year, I mean, every single boy I met was just something more and more stupid came out of his mouth. And I was in school in Boston, so I was going to frat parties at MIT and Harvard, which, you know, obviously probably weren't the best, you know, frat parties to be fair. But you'd expect more guys in there, but not so much. So it just, you know, it never felt like, it was always whenever I met someone or was dating someone in the States, there always felt like we were a little off sync.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I went back and, you know, started dating Tom again, it just happened. It was just natural and it just went easy. And, you know, a lot of our outlook for the future, at that time I was studying education to teach internationally. And, you know, he wanted to go in the foreign service. So, you know, I mean, we both had the same goals in that sense, but you know, I mean, raising your kids in the foreign service is a very different experience than like how we grew up, where we were kind of just in Taiwan and there the whole time. You know, my poor kids constantly are bouncing back and forth into different countries. So I'm not really sure myself how that's all going to affect them. They seem fine now. They seem really excited. Georgia, being born in Taiwan, is obsessed with Taiwan. She's so confused. She calls herself Taiwanese.
I didn't realize she was born there. That's kind of a cool story too, right?
Yeah, she was born there. So she's all sorts of confused.
As we all are. Right?
Noah in Gabon there was no American preschool. So he went to preschool and kindergarten in a French school. And he was able to understand French, but he refused to speak it. And when they asked him why, he would say, I'm from Burma, I speak English. And so our age, they were just confused. So I have a feeling it's just more confusion is going to happen. I mean, I haven't really, nothing seems to be like falling apart right now, so I'm not going to pull it at loose threads, but I think that my own experience will definitely have some sort of talk before college for sure about the transition. And I think it's going to be interesting for them now, having been in America for what will have been here for 4 years before they move back to Burma. I think that'll be a harder transition. So, you know, I mean, it was easier when they're younger, but I'm expecting some rougher roads ahead. Georgia has.
How long do you think you'll be there? Any idea?
Burma will be, I think, 3 years. Fingers crossed.
Your son will probably finish up high school there, right?
I know, it is so freaky to say that. He's like in 8th grade now, and oh, when we leave Burma, we're leaving without one kid. So
Right.
that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it gets all the whole weird thing that Georgia will be like a junior, and then you worry about them moving at that time. But Tom did it. He came into Taiwan his senior year, so he doesn't have a lot
Was
of.
he in the States? Was he in the States before Taipei?
No, Turkey.
Okay, so he truly is a TCK. I didn't know that. I thought he was just American.
First place before, so it was. He's been, he lived 2 as a teenager.
Yeah, because his if I remember right, his parents were AIT, so they were foreign service type of thing too, right?
Yeah, Tom does the same job his dad does. He does security for embassy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll get back to him before we hang up here. But wow, we talked about a lot of things TCK wise, and that's awesome because it's so. Like I said, I could sit here and talk to you for a couple hours. This doesn't get old. So, but I do want to lighten it up because a lot of people are also chiming in. They want to know about your writing.
Oh.
Okay, so you obviously we talked about you being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
In international schools, but there's going to be a couple questions here. When did you start writing? And then being a TCK, did that influence your writing? And as a fellow writer, we have definitely different styles a little bit, but how did you end up a romance thriller writer? I've actually before you came on today, I had a bunch of people send me that question, like ask Camille how in the world she ended up a romance thriller writer. But it's awesome. I writer to writer. I mean, you and I have a lot in common. The TCK thing is one thing, but you and I always wrote. I don't know if we did talk about this. I think that the fact that you and I always wrote for Pause. Yeah. Pause at the time, that was Blue and Gold, right? TS's newspaper.
Blue and Gold, yeah. Another
but how did you? Yeah. How did you end up writing? And then do you think we'll go step by step. Let's answer that first one first. When did you start writing?
I've always written. I think I really started writing in middle school. A lot of it probably stemmed from lots of plane trips across the ocean.
Yeah, I get that.
When I was younger, my mom bought me a coloring book and a packet of crayons, and then when I was older, I got a notebook and a pen, and it was like, here, have fun for 12 hours. So I started writing like really bad Sweet Valley High type books. I don't know.
Awesome. That's not bad. That's awesome. Yeah.
Sweet Valley High type books in my notebook longhand, and my dad used to always make fun of them. And then I started writing for Pause or the Blue and Gold at TAS. And
by the way, we do need to give a shout out to Miss Marjorie Morris, right? She's also no longer with us, and she was also an influence on us, both of us.
Huge.
So I don't know if like her daughter's watching this, and her daughters, but she was a big influence on both of us. Just so they know that too.
Yeah. I mean, and that was that. I mean, I guess there were. So I constantly was writing and just to entertain myself, but it wasn't anything focused really. And then the 2 teachers for me at TAS were Mr. Driscoll, who I think one who took a class with Mr. Driscoll.
Another guy. Let me just pause you real quick. What an influence! What a hell of a man! He changed the way I viewed so many things.
And I don't think it was one. Every person who took a class with him left like, ooh,
And I was spoiled rotten. He actually lived right behind me. My family lived in Yamishan, then we moved to Domsray, if you remember.
Yep.
But Driscoll and his family actually lived right around the corner from us in Domsray. I was extremely fortunate, as you were too, I'm sure. But talk about an impact. The guy, and I know it's not just our generation. I mean, he was there for a long time, and what an influence, right? What an influence. So
yeah, he really took a chance on me because I was in regular English class, and I think I was like pulling a B, and he walked up to me in the hall one day, and he said, "How come you're not in my honors English class?" And I told him it was because I didn't have the grades to be in honors English class. And he just basically said, I called bull. And he fought and he got me into his class. And I've never felt smarter than I did in that class. I just felt like So smart. And, I mean, I ended up doing okay in the class. I mean, I kept my B average in his class. And so he was a huge influence to me. And then,
you remember when he played the guitar? He just like say, you know what? We're not learning anything today. I just want to break out the guitar and let's go.
I remember if he played a guitar. I was a high school girl. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yes, every high school girl remembered when Mr. Driscoll brought out the guitar.
I always thought, as a teacher, I was in education for 18 years. That was always something I always thought about. Like sometimes you just gotta like shut it down and do something else. And yeah, but those are the influences you and I both had, right? So we learned that as high schoolers, never really realizing that it was going to impact us later on as professionals. But I did that so many times. You asked my former students. It was some days I went against the grain. I was like, you know what? It's not working today. Let's just do something else. Let's talk about something else. Let's
as you as a teacher, you're like a team, and there's sometimes your team needs a break.
Yep.
So I mean, like between Mr. Driscoll and Mrs. Morris, like I really like Mrs. Morris was wonderful. She encouraged both you and I.
Did you have Miggs's mom too? To carry on?
Yeah.
So you and I go way back in the journalistic department. So that's I want to give her a shout out too because she was equal. I actually knew the funny thing is about growing up overseas, and you can vouch for this too. Although I guess you were only in Taiwan, but not only, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I knew Miggs's family, and my brother knew Miggs's family, and my family knew Miggs's family when we were in Hong Kong. So it was kind of cool. There were so many people that would go from Hong Kong to Taipei. And it was a natural transition. So I knew Miggs's mom way before Taiwan days. She was in Hong Kong at HKIS.
That's right, yeah.
So I knew the family. And so when she came over and took over, it was fantastic. And obviously not to make light of Mrs. Morris, but it was just kind of cool to have back-to-back years where like two women who really like stood out in my writing career. Definitely, as I think you're hinting at. So
yeah, they both were very supportive.
Yeah,
pushed us. Mrs. Morris continued like throughout my entire life. Stayed in contact with me. We emailed. She was one of my favorite adults. Weird, I know we're adults, but she was one of my favorite adults, and I miss her every day.
Never got a chance to, because she and I would write back and forth. I don't even know if her daughter knows this. Rebecca, I hope you're watching, or at least we'll watch this at some point. But your mom truly, I mean, Camille just said this, and I'll vouch for it. But she was definitely an influence on us too. She made a difference. So
just made me feel warm and important in her class. Like I just felt like my opinion mattered.
You couldn't do wrong, right? Like no matter what your idea was, no matter what, it was just awesome. Go with it, push yourself, see what you can get. So yeah.
So I think, I think they really helped shape me. In terms of how I started writing romance.
Yeah, that's the number one question I've got before we actually got on. Was like people are like, Camille, romance, what?
Yeah, I don't know if I should be insulted that that's such.
No, it's a compliment, I think.
I write what I like to read. So I like to read romances, so I write romances. But I started my book series when I moved back here after living in Africa. I moved back to Virginia, and Tom went to Iraq, and I was stuck in suburban Virginia with like a kindergartner and a toddler, and I had no friends, and it was just a really lonely time. And so there was nothing on TV I was into, and so I just kind of decided to create my own world. And I had no intention of doing anything with it. And I just kept adding to it. And I started enjoying spending my time in this world. And then I discovered a online writing site called Wattpad, which is a Canadian writing site. And I put my first book on there, and I kind of uploaded it chapter by chapter. And I don't know, now it says it's been like viewed like 3 million times, which I think is really weird. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap.
Only 3?
I'm like,
only 3 million?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I need to check that. So it got a lot of traction on Wattpad. A lot of people read it. And I wasn't sure that I could. I started the book. It's this series, and it's 4 books. And
yeah, tell us about, is it Ellie Blackwell?
yeah, she's my main character, Ellie Blackwell. So she falls in love on her 17th birthday and is murdered on her 18th birthday.
Oh,
And
that's
she's
life.
reincarnated.
Yeah.
And kind of the same souls of her enemies and her friends follow her from each lifetime. And so what the books are is each book in this series tells the story of her past lifetime, and then the present day storyline continues throughout all 4. So we're basically trying to solve Ellie's murder, and like in different lifetimes, we get more clues, and everyone around her has secrets, and I have a lot of twists and turns and that kind of thing. But I wasn't really confident that with I like to start things but don't often finish them, so I wasn't confident with my ability
I can relate to that, yeah.
to finish it. So I just started putting them out for free. And then when I got all 4 up there for free, I decided to just go ahead and bite the bullet and self-publish. So that's where I'm at now. The first one came out in October. And that's why when you mentioned my standalone book, I'm actually taking a pause from that and just working on editing my second book in the series to get that out instead, because seems like what people want. So I'm going to just go.
Awesome. What about being a TCK? Do you think that impacted your writing?
I think, again, it was just because I didn't have TV at all. I mean, I had my videotapes from the American Club, and if I was lucky, I would get like a Facts of Life and a different stroke on there. It was a lot of creative play. I mean, I think our generation, no matter where you live, benefited more from creative play. I mean, Kim used to have Aaron and I out there playing like Little House on the Prairie when we were little. And just constantly we're using imaginations with our plays.
Hey,
so
Camille, hold on 1 second. My computer's dying, so I'm going to plug it in. So hold on for 1 second.
Oh, I talked your computer to that.
No, you're awesome. No, keep going. Okay, keep talking.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of creative play and a lot of time spent like on airplane trips, or like, I think there's this culture with third culture kids where, your parents kind of go off to parties and leave you in hotel rooms kind of situation.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I spent a lot of New Year's Eve in Bangkok in hotel rooms by myself when I was in elementary school. So I just did a lot of writing all that time. But I mean, the thing is, we are surrounded by so many talented people from our school that I feel very, very weird calling myself a writer, because I could name off the top of my head like 10 kids from our school that I would think would write a much better book than me.
No.
I just consider myself a storyteller more than a writer.
Well, I think that's part of growing up the way we did. That's the same thing I feel. I mean, you know what? I forgot to mention this. The book that I wrote, and a little self-plug here, this is 10 years ago, or no, 14 years ago. But look carefully at the second line down. This is getting back to your mom.
I can't read it. I don't know if it's like reading glasses.
Yeah, how about that? Anyway, your mom actually wrote a bit on the book.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this was a while ago. It's been a while. I've got a second draft kind of written, and hopefully we'll get published soon. But yeah, I meant to tell you that earlier. But yeah, your mom was. That's what I told you earlier. We talked about your mom, but she was such an influence, and she was one of the first people I reached out to. She read the manuscript and she wrote right back. She was one of the first.
Oh, so. Really? She didn't read mine, so you won me.
Well, look, yeah, let's try again. There she is.
Nice. Yeah, oh, that's so great.
This is something I definitely hold deeply internally. So she was one that was able to write about that. So,
like I said, yeah, I mean, so proud of all of you guys. I mean, like, I think people who probably think my mom doesn't even know their name would be surprised at like how she was just name dropped you all and was so proud of all that everyone's grown up to be. And
well, we were all just so, like we talked about this earlier, it was family. It got past the point of just being friends and all that stuff. I mean, I look at the Wangers, I look at the Mahans, I look at the, the Hopfingers, the Lowrys, I could keep going on and on and on, but obviously the Funks, totally family. So, I mean, you guys are so accepting, and the fact that our parents were so close. I sent you I want to say it was about a month ago. I don't know if you got it, but your sister wrote back. this showcases how close our our parents were and just the lifestyle. But I came across, I was going through some stuff, and my wife and I were going through some stuff, and we saw a newspaper clipping, and it was of the Taiwan government / military, and it was a situation where they invited some foreign people because our parents weren't diplomats. They happened to be there for what reasons they were there for. But your mom and my mom, let's be honest, they're pretty strong women.
Yeah.
Totally. And I respect the hell out of that,
Yep.
Luckily, I see my mom a lot. I mean, obviously not right now, but she's here in Utah as well. But your mom and my mom were sitting side by side, and it was a Taiwan, I guess, I don't even want to say it was a holiday, but they were invited by the Chinese government, the Taiwan government, to come and represent the American school. Your mom and my mom sitting side by side. I mean, we're talking 1987, 1988.
Oh, wow.
Sitting there and just like looking.
I didn't see. I'm gonna have to get that.
I think I sent it to you. Kim wrote back. Your sister wrote back, but I think it was on Messenger. I think I sent it to you on Messenger. So check that out.
I'll check.
It makes me so proud. I mean, here you are, a product of a very strong, independent, yet wonderful lady, and likewise, my mom's the same way. Your mom and my mom were very similar in so many ways. So, but anyway, I don't even know where they came from. I just wanted you to know.
That's so cool.
But so check out Messenger. I sent it to Kim. She wrote back, but just check it out. So we talked about your writing and what impacted you and whatnot. It sounds like you have 4 current books on this series on Eli. Ellie or Eli? What is it?
It's Ellie.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 1 out now, and then 4 written, but they're being edited right now.
Okay. Are they online, or are they hardback or soft?
The first book you can buy on Amazon. It's in hardback or on ebook, and the rest of them are just online, but just snippets of them.
Okay. Well, you and I are gonna have to talk after the show because I've got a couple. I've been writing still. Obviously, I do that a lot. And I have a blog too, but I've got a couple more. Like the second verse of "We're Moving Where," that's the book I wrote. Is transitioned into a couple new chapters and things like that. I've updated it. So you and I are gonna have to talk about that after the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's in the works for you? Any more future stories? Any books? Any advice you can give some young readers, some young writers, things like that? What can you tell people?
I mean, my problem is always more ideas than time. So I have like a lot of ideas that I want to get to, but I start doing the math at how long I take at doing the whole process. And I'm like, I'm going to be dead before I finish all these books. So I'm not
a writer, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I do have a lot of ideas. It's definitely something that I want to keep doing for as long as I can.
Well, you're all the talent, so you better keep doing it. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and Tom's been great about like supporting me and supporting it, the dream of it. So I couldn't, ask for anyone a better partner in that respect. But yeah, so I hopefully you'll keep writing. Yeah, my goal is to get my second book out sometime, hopefully in the fall, but it's probably looking now more like December or something because coronavirus put a little detour, and I haven't been able to concentrate at all to do any writing. So yeah.
Well, it's a good transition again. We're almost done here. This is awesome. Like I said, I can keep talking to you. It's so natural and easy, but. Quarantine life. Let's talk about that. How's it treating you, first of all, and what are you binging on?
Oh God. Okay, quarantine life is hard. As I said, it's just me and the 2 teens. So, I'm lucky if I have like a 10-minute conversation with someone that's present. Excuse me. I have learned 2 TikTok dances thanks to my daughter. I now know.
Why haven't you seen those yet?
Oh my God, because I don't understand these weird moves. There's anyway, they probably will be online eventually once I get my butt into figuring them out. But I've learned the names of YouTube stars and their girlfriends. I have reorganized Tom's closet in order of color, so that's going to be a fun surprise for him to come back to.
Yeah.
First 2 weeks were okay. I felt like I was on top of things. Then I got a little sick and I got a little anxiety and I spun a little out of control for a week.
You all right?
Yeah, it was just a low fever, and it was only 24 hours, but you know, mine starts going. But so that was a while ago, and now I'm in this stage where I've kind of like torn everything apart in my house. Like I've painted the pantry, I painted the bathroom. Like my house is a little destroyed because I just keep like tearing things out and redoing things.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've done a lot for Tom. I think he's going to come back, and that honey-do list is going to be really short. So we should be happy.
Should be. When is he supposed to be back? What'd you say? July, June?
July, if all goes well. Yeah, July.
Okay.
And in terms of binging stuff, I mean, at this point, I seriously feel like I have watched every show on Netflix, every show on Hulu, every show on Amazon Prime. I don't think there is
Tiger King?
Yeah, I did. I mean, get into it. It took me a while to get through it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had this like a little like snobby aversion to the people in it where I was just like, eee. And then
I told him that too. I got through the first 20 minutes and then I gave it another chance and I watched it, but it was more background noise.
Yeah, that's how I feel like I finished it. The whole time I kept thinking afterwards, no one's talking about the poor tigers. They're just talking about all these crazy people. But meanwhile, all these tigers are dead, and America still has more tigers than anywhere else. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you said that. I saw something today. I want to say it was Brooklyn, but some New York police officers went and took a 400-pound tiger out of a house in Brooklyn.
Oh my God! Yeah. In Brooklyn, of course.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So.
Yeah, so I'm still watching that.
Good. No, I feel you. I get it. So we're hanging in there. Actually, to be honest with you, we've been watching Cheers and Will and Grace. And
I know. I've been watching a lot of Parks and Rec over and over again.
There you go. Those shows still hold up, right? They still hold up.
Still hold up.
I watched my wife and I lunch today. We watched Cheers, 2 episodes of Cheers, and we laughed our asses off. So
I know.
Yeah, certain things are just.
Watching
I don't know if it's just a simple thing of a comfort show or whatever, but they still hold up. So
yes, they do.
Guess what? We are just about done. I have one more question that's become kind of a staple on the show. So if you've watched the last couple, hopefully you have. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you have, right?
Yes.
You probably know what's coming, but you still a beer girl? It looks like you're drinking wine. Okay. Oh no?
Beer all the way.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Trying to be classy. Failed.
Too late, right? Too late. No, you're doing good. So having said that, I also I'm a beer person, and this is kind of an off the record. It has nothing to do with TCK. It has nothing to do with any of the deep stuff we talked about. But having said that, regarding beer or whatever you want, it doesn't necessarily have to be beer. But if you could sit down, I give you an hour and a half. Have a beer with anybody, alive or not with us anymore, who would it be and why?
All right. I'm sorry to do this because it's the end high note. But I have to be honest, at this point, it would be my mom. I miss the heck out of her. And for the few of you, actually more than a few of you former students who had the privilege of drinking with Kathy, she held her own and she could drink me under the table. And she was a really fun person to drink with. And I would give anything to have a beer with her again. And she was a beer drinker too.
Yeah, she was. I actually had a beer with your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
So I'm proud to say that. So no, I get that totally. If you saw Tim's episode, his dad was his answer. My dad was my answer. No, it's not just you. I get it totally. So no, that's awesome. And we talked about it, but your mom was a badass. Your dad's a badass. The Funks are badass people. So
thank you.
Just know that. So,
right back at you, Voegels.
I got you. Right. So Anything else? I mean, in terms of social media, things like that, where can people find you?
Let's see. I'm over on Instagram for the most part. And that's at the Return series is my Instagram handle, and that's for the book. But if you want to see my personal one, it's at I think it's at C Funk is my personal one. And I like to post a lot of I like to take pictures of graffiti and stuff in when I'm in Asia and food. Yeah. So I like to find what I have dubbed ugly, beautiful Asia. That's where you see something that is kind of ugly, but it's just so beautiful in Asia.
I totally
like worn down or dirty, or a couch on the side of the street, and it just works. So I like to take ugly, beautiful Asia pictures.
Oh, I totally get that. When I first got to Shanghai, if it makes you feel any better, one of the first pictures I sent back stateside was, you can relate to this. It was a truck. Actually, it wasn't even a truck. It was a guy on a bicycle that had a back end to it, but he probably had 50 chairs on it. It made no sense whatsoever. 20 feet high, and he's just riding a bike with those chairs on it. So I totally get that.
Like a pro.
Oh, yeah, it's no big deal to him, right? So, listen, Camille, we are, 2 hours, and I'm totally cool
sorry.
with that. No. There's nothing to apologize about. I guarantee people that are watching this and who know you, who know me, I love it every minute of this. And hopefully we brought a couple more people in. But thank you so much. I truly respect the hell out of you and your parents. Keep writing.
Thank you.
As a writer to a writer, keep writing. And
right back at you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you've inspired me. I mean, I've got one. This is the only thing I've gotten published. So, and that was 14 years ago. So.
All right, we'll have a race for who's going to get number 2 out first, right?
I like it. Done.
There we go. A little motivation.
I totally get that. Yeah, I mean, I've been writing a little bit on my blog and things like that, and
it's hard to find time.
Yeah. I mean, we got it right now, but we don't. It's one of those weird things about being quarantined. So, but just thank you so much. Just know that I love the hell out of your family. Love you. Love Tom. I don't even know your kids, but let's just go ahead and say I love your kids too, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So to definitely, just those of you that are watching, I hope this was a good time. It was for me. I could keep talking.
I hope we didn't put anyone to sleep. 2 hours.
No, that's all right. Tim will give me crap because he was like, "Hey, Tim's trying to be my producer on this," and that's fine with me. But he's like,
I'm used to crap from Tim, so that's okay.
Yeah, everybody's used to crap from Tim, so that's Wanger for you. So, but just know I sincerely, from my heart, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And again, from all of us watching you normally, this has been a lot of fun. I've had such fun watching Tim's and Sean's, and I can't wait to see who you have on next, which I think might be Ramon. I'm really looking forward to. It's really been just a real nice distraction in the best type of way during this.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole concept.
I just love catching up with everybody.
Yeah, and the initial side of this was to talk about TCKs and how we grew up, but realistically, as I said this in the beginning, not every single person I'm going to bring on. This thing's kind of taken a whole life of its own, and I'm fine with that. But it's kind of cool when it's your own show. You get to bring on people that meant a lot.
You're the boss.
I'm the boss, right? So it's been awesome. I thought we'd get like 2 or 3 followers and maybe a handful of people would watch it, and it's been watched, I mean, thousands of times already, which is crazy to me. So, but anyway, that said, thank you so much. Please be safe. Those of you watching, please stay home. Let's get this thing under control before we start making our way outside. And just Camille and TAS people and Hong Kong people, just know this is for you. It's not just about me. It's I got lucky. I get to ask the questions, but realistically, I'm in such a great place that I get to talk to people I want to talk to and hear their stories and where they've been over the last 20 years. And Camille, you're awesome. So I hope this worked for you. Be safe next week, as we talked about Roman Gradel, those TAS people.
I'll be tuning in.
You better be, yeah. So
he's
we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, Roman is Roman, and I've talked to him a little bit here and there. He can't wait to come on too. he's in Israel, so it's probably going to be Sunday night, maybe into Monday morning or Saturday. All at the viewers.
Oh yeah, times, yeah.
But, yeah, so it's that way, unfortunately, but it's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much. Please take care of yourself. Tell the kids I said hi. When you talk to Tom, please let him know. And I sincerely mean this. It's not just me. People have his back. We're all thinking about him.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, right? Absolutely.
Thank you.
So say hi to your pops too. He's a good dude.
I will, for sure.
All right. So thank you very much. The rest of you watching, thank you. Until next time, we will see you again. This will be available in just a little bit on BenThere.org. Go there. I am about to post another writing that I did, but this video of Camille's interview, it'll be online probably in about 30 minutes. So if you missed the beginning of this, just go check it out on BenThere.org. Please be safe, everybody. Camille, thank you. I love the shirt. I got to get one of those.
You do?
Go Tigers, right?
Go Tigers.
All right. We'll take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.